A massive baobab tree towers over the quiet village of Umwaku, its gnarled branches stretching like claws into the moonlit sky, casting ominous shadows across the land. Known as Ojolai Oku, or the Whispering Baobab, it has been both a source of fear and fascination for generations. The tree's bark is dark and weathered, etched with deep crevices that seem to form unreadable symbols. At night, a soft rustling emanates from its branches, though the air may be still. The villagers whisper among themselves that the tree holds secrets too ancient to be understood, secrets that no one dares to confront. Villagers gather around a fire in the center of the village, their faces illuminated by flickering flames as the elder, Baba Aneo, shares eerie tales of Ojolai Oku. His voice, raspy and laden with the weight of years, carries an ominous tone that sends shivers down the spines of his audience. He recounts stories of those who venture too close to the tree, children who disappeared without a trace, hunters who lost their minds, and even a whole family that vanished overnight. Ojolai Oku is not just a tree, Baba Aneo says, his eyes reflecting the firelight. It is alive, and it hungers for the unwary. Never forget, my children, that its whispers are not the wind but the voices of those it has claimed. Nkem, a young man with a sharp tongue and a skeptical mind, sits among the villagers. His friends chuckle quietly as he rolls his eyes at the elders' words. Old stories to scare children, Nkem mutters under his breath, loud enough for his friends to hear. They stifle their laughter, not wanting to draw the elders' ire. You mock what you do not understand, Baba Aneo says, his gaze piercing Nkem. One day, pride will lead you to places your courage cannot save you from. Nkem meets the elder's eyes but says nothing, his defiance evident in the set of his jaw. He's heard these stories his whole life and refuses to believe in the supernatural. To him, Ojolai Oku is just an old tree, nothing more. Days later, the village bursts to life in celebration. Drums beat a lively rhythm, and the square is adorned with colorful fabrics and lanterns that glow like fireflies in the night. It's the annual harvest festival, a time for feasting, dancing, and forgetting the hardships of the past year. Nkem and his friends gather near a vendor selling palm wine, their laughter loud and carefree. The mood is infectious, and even the most solemn villagers find themselves smiling. Amid the festivities, someone brings up the legend of Ojolai Oku. One of Nkem's friends, a wiry young man named Obina, grins mischievously. If you're so brave, Nkem, why don't you prove it? Go touch the tree and bring back a piece of its bark. The others cheer and egg him on, emboldened by the palm wine coursing through their veins. Nkem smacks, unwilling to back down. Fine. I'll show you there's nothing to fear. But when I do, I don't want to hear any more of your nonsense about curses and whispers. With his friends trailing behind, Nkem sets off toward the edge of the village, where the Whispering Baobab looms like a dark sentinel. The sounds of the festival fade as they approach, replaced by an eerie silence. The air grows cooler, and the ground beneath their feet feels oddly soft, as though the earth itself is reluctant to support their steps. When they reach the clearing, Nkem's friends hesitate, hanging back as he continues forward. He holds a torch, its flame flickering against the encroaching darkness. The tree stands before him, massive and imposing, its gnarled branches casting twisted shadows. For the first time, a sliver of doubt creeps into Nkem's mind, but he pushes it aside. Standing before Ojolai Oku, the air feels heavy, almost oppressive. The faint sound of whispers reaches his ears, so soft that he wonders if he's imagining it. The leaves rustle, though there is no wind. His friends watch from a distance, their faces pale and anxious. With trembling fingers, Nkem reaches out to touch the tree's bark. It is rough and cold, sending a chill through his hand. The whispers grow louder, surrounding him like a chorus of disembodied voices. He's about to pull his hand away when something moves in the corner of his vision. He freezes, his heart pounding. Dark shadows surge from the tree's roots, spiraling upward like a living storm. The whispers become piercing screams, and Nkem staggers back, dropping his torch. The flames extinguish as the shadows envelop him, their touch icy and suffocating. His friends shout his name, but their voices seem distant, drowned out by the cacophony of whispers and screams. From the back of the tree, a spectral figure emerges. It is a woman, her eyes hollow and her face gaunt. Nkem's breath catches in his throat as he recognizes her. "Adeebi," he whispers, his voice trembling. It's his cousin, who disappeared years ago. She reaches out to him, her translucent fingers brushing his cheek. "Leave this place," she says, her voice hollow and echoing. The tree is cursed. It feeds on fear and defiance. "Leave, before it's too late." Nkem tries to move, but his feet are rooted to the ground. The shadows tighten around him, and Adeebi's form begins to dissolve. Her warning echoes in his mind as the darkness engulfs him completely. At dawn, the villagers gather near Ojolai Oku, drawn by the whispers that linger in the still morning air. They find Nkem's torch lying at the base of the tree, its flame long extinguished. The ground is undisturbed, as though he'd never been there. Baba Aneo stands among them, his expression grave. "He would not listen," the elder says softly, shaking his head. "The tree takes those who challenge it. Let this be a warning to us all." The villagers remain silent, their eyes fixed on the towering baobab. Its branches sway gently, though there is no breeze. The whispers continue, faint and mournful, as if mourning another soul claimed by the tree. Ojolai Oku stands as it always has, casting its eternal shadow over the village, waiting for the next to fall victim. In the days that followed Nkem's disappearance, the village became subdued, the harvest festival's joy replaced with a somber tension. Children were no longer allowed to play near the forest, and the adults kept their distance from the cursed clearing. Baba Aneo's warnings grew sterner, urging the villagers to respect the ancient boundaries. Yet, a lingering fear took hold, one that even the elders' wisdom couldn't dispel. Whispers of regret and dread passed from hut to hut, and the sense of unease only deepened. One evening, Obina, guilt-ridden over his role in daring Nkem to confront the tree, approached Baba Aneo for guidance. The elder's hut was dimly lit by a single oil lamp, its glow casting flickering shadows on the walls. Obina knelt before the elder, his voice barely a whisper. "Baba, I cannot sleep. I see Nkem's face every time I close my eyes. Is there no way to save him?" The elder sighed heavily, the weight of countless stories and warnings etched into his weary face. "Ojolai Oku's curse is ancient, Obina. It is not something to be undone by mortal hands. Those who are taken do not return, and those who try to save them risk the same fate." "But Nkem was my friend," Obina insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. "Surely there must be something we can do. We cannot just leave him to the tree." Baba Aneo's eyes softened, though his tone remained firm. "The tree's hunger cannot be sated, Obina. You must honor Nkem's memory by ensuring no one else suffers his fate. This is how we protect the living." Still, Obina couldn't let go of his guilt. He began spending his nights at the edge of the forest, watching the shadows shift beneath the moonlight, as though searching for a sign or a glimpse of his lost friend. He whispered apologies to the wind, hoping they might somehow reach Nkem. The other villagers avoided him, fearing his obsession might draw the tree's attention to them. Months passed, and Obina's obsession deepened. He began to research the old tales, speaking to elders in nearby villages and piecing together fragmented stories of Ojolai Oku. He learned of a ritual, one that might appease the tree or at least protect the village from further harm. It required offerings, not just material goods but acts of penance and symbols of unity. With Baba Aneo's reluctant blessing, Obina organized a village gathering. By the firelight, he shared what he had learned, urging the villagers to come together in an act of collective atonement. Though hesitant, they agreed, driven by a mixture of fear and hope. The ritual was set for the next full moon, a night when the whispers were said to be strongest. On the appointed evening, the villagers gathered near the clearing, their faces pale but determined. They brought offerings of food, handcrafted items, and symbols of their ancestors. Baba Aneo led the prayers, his voice resonating with authority and reverence. Obina stood at the forefront, holding a carved figurine meant to represent Nkem, a gesture of remembrance and an appeal for forgiveness. As the ritual unfolded, the air grew heavy, and the whispers intensified. The villagers knelt in unison, their voices joining in a solemn chant. The trees' branches swayed violently, though there was no wind, and shadows danced across the clearing. For a moment, it seemed as though the tree was listening. Suddenly, a chilling cry pierced the night. The villagers froze, their eyes fixed on Ojolai Oku. From the base of the tree, a figure emerged, not Nkem, but a shadowy silhouette with no discernible features. It hovered above the ground, its presence both terrifying and mesmerizing. The whispers surged, louder and more chaotic, as if the tree itself were protesting. The shadow pointed toward the villagers, its gesture filled with accusation. Baba Aneo stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "We seek only to make peace. Take our offerings and spare us your wrath." The shadow hesitated, then dissolved into the tree's bark. The whispers subsided, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. The villagers remained kneeling, their breaths shallow and their hearts racing. Finally, Baba Aneo signaled for them to rise. "It is done," he said, though his tone held uncertainty. In the weeks that followed, the whispers grew quieter, and the tree's shadow seemed less foreboding. The villagers dared to hope that their ritual had succeeded, though the memory of Nkem and those before him remained a heavy burden. Ojolai Oku still stood, a silent sentinel over Umuaku, its presence a constant reminder of the delicate balance between fear and reverence.